beautiful?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. Babe, come here. Come on. Babe, it's what I've been looking for all this time.
What, your dignity?
No, there's no hope for that.
Come on, right here.
Look, babe. It's the legendary Everdell. Hey there, guys. This is Everdell. I've got it on the table here for us to look at. This is a woodland creature, city building, resource management, worker placement type game. And let me go over it with you guys. What you're doing in this game is you're going to be doing one of three actions. You're either going to be placing a worker, this is one of your workers, on one of the action spaces on the board to either pretty much gather resources or cards. Those are the different actions that you'll mostly be doing in this game. I'm not going to go over all the different spaces. Just know that you're mostly gaining these resources here that eventually will be able to let you play the cards in the game. Now, you do want to make sure to explain the different spaces to your non-gamer friends to help them understand, but they're mostly pretty well they've got good icons next to the spaces to let you know what you're doing at these spots. Now, I will explain to you guys real quick that some of the spots have closed circles, like this one here on the left that gives 3 twigs. And that means that only one person can go there per round. And so you do want to explain that to your non-gamer friends, as the case is the case with lots of worker placement games. Once a worker goes there, that space is off limits. And so you do need to have a good strategy, plan accordingly with that. However, that space there on the right that gives 2 twigs and a card, that circle's open. And so that means that more than one person can go to that space. So do explain that to your non-gamer friends. Okay, so you can place workers or you can play cards. And again, these meadow cards here in the middle are available to anyone. You have the cards that are in your hand, and normally these cards would be in my hand. You wouldn't see them, but for purposes of this video, I've got them face up. And so let me explain how a card works. To be able to play a card, I need to be able to pay the resources that are listed here on the left. 1 twig and a stone, for instance, for this twig barge. The number here in the gold circle on the right indicates how many victory points this card is worth. So the higher the number, the more valuable the card is. This little icon in the color where the name of the card is tell you what type of card this is. So this is a green card. And green cards activate immediately when you play them, as well as whenever you're changing into the spring season and the autumn season, which I'll get back to that here in a second. But for instance, this card here would give me 2 wood. And when I've played that, I would put it face down here in front of me, and that would be a part of my city. And I would gain 2 wood. Now, the brown cards are very similar to green cards in that they give you the ability immediately when you've played it. The difference is that it's one and done. You get the ability and then that's it. You don't get to activate it again later on in the game. The red cards let you have an additional place to be able to put one of your workers. And so once you've played this card in your city, you could put a worker on top of it later on in the game and be able to activate whatever is listed here at the bottom. Now, some of the red cards, this one doesn't have it, but some of them have a little open, the word open listed on top of that, and that just tells you that your opponents can put their workers on this card as well. And so when they do that, you gain 1 victory point for every time that that happens in the game. Blue cards here give you some sort of ongoing bonus. So typically they give you bonuses for whenever you play other cards. Now this one in particular says when playing a construction, you may discard this crane from your city to play that construction for 3 fewer resources. That's what that icon there means. And so when it says construction or critter, those are the 2 different types of cards you can play. It's talking about this little wording underneath the name of the card. So this is the crane, and it's a unique construction. And so when playing a construction, that's when this card would come into play, when you play a construction card. Now, as I mentioned, all cards are either going to be critters or constructions. They are also either going to be unique or common. And so that goes into play as well. Now you can have as many of the same type of common constructions. So I could have as many twig barges as I wanted. However, you can only have one of each kind of unique construction or critter. So I can only have one university. I can't play multiple universities. So that's an important rule to make sure your non-gamer friends know, because that can really disrupt their strategy. If you drop that bomb on them halfway through the game, they won't like that. So anyway, that's blue cards. Purple cards here give you some sort of bonus goal to try to achieve by the end of the game to give you additional points. And so, for instance, this one says I get 1 additional point for each of my unused resin and stones to a maximum of 6. And so I could get 6 more points at the end of the game if I play that one correctly. So those are the different types of cards. One other thing that I will explain to you guys, and do explain this to your non-gamer friends. On some of the cards, there is a banner up here in the top left corner of the name of another card. And what it's saying is that if I have the crane in my city already played, then I can play the architect for free. And how that works is, here's the crane right here. If I've played the crane here, if you look here in the bottom right corner, it says the architect right there. And so if I have this card face down, or face up, excuse me, in my city, I could take one of these little icons right here, put it on top of the architect there, and then I would get to play the architect for free. Now the reason why we have these little tokens to put the closed door is because you can only do that once per card that you have. So I can only activate that ability on the crane once to be able to play the architect for free. So that's pretty cool. All right, so I mentioned that there are 3 actions you could be doing on your turn. The first was to place a worker. The second was to play a card. The third is to declare the end of a season. And when you do that, you're essentially saying, I have no more actions to take this round, and I am going to take back all my workers that I've placed on the board and gain an additional worker. And as you can see there at the top of the tree, it tells you how many workers you will get and activation of green cards, or perhaps you get to draw additional cards from the meadow. And so there are essentially 4 rounds in this game, and you get more workers as the game progresses. And what you're trying to achieve are these basic goals here that tell you if you have played 3 blue cards, you can put a worker on this tile here and claim that for 3 points. This one here says 3 red cards, put a worker here, you get the boat. There are 2 others for the green and brown cards, and they work essentially the same way. Each of those give you 3 bonus points at the end of the game. There are these special in-game cards here. I'll grab this one for an example. That if you have played the cards that are listed here at the top of the card, so for instance the judge and the queen, you can put a worker here and be able to claim this bonus for yourself, and they typically give you victory points in addition to maybe something else. That is essentially it. At the end of the game, you're going to add up all of the points on your cards that you've played. You're going to add up any bonus points that you got from purple cards. You will give yourself points from any point tokens that you've collected throughout the course of the game. Points for any basic in-game goals that you were going for, or special in-game goals that you were going for. And then you will also get points for if you took the journey action in the last round of the game. And what this is that you would put a worker on whatever spot you're trying to claim, and you would have to discard that number of cards to get the points. So if I put a worker here, I would discard 4 cards to get 4 points. So once you've done that and you added up all the points, the person with the most points is the winner. They would get to take a nice little selfie with this little card right here. This is something Starling Games is known for doing, including a card here that you can take a picture with if you're the winner. Anyway, the person who does that is the winner of Everdell. All right, so here we are at the table playing a 2-player game of Everdell. And we're going to share our thoughts on this game. Sam, what did you think about Everdell?
I liked it. It was a very unique gaming experience. The board is very cool. I love the components of it. And it's not like a game I'd ever played before. I really enjoyed how the cards matched together, you would get one card, which would allow you to get another card for free if it was out there, if you paid for it, or you wouldn't have to pay for it, I'm sorry, but if it was out there, they would go together. It was just a really cool theme and experience in playing it.
Yeah, it's definitely top-notch production quality here. The components are great. The look of the board is just amazing. That 3D tree and how it's used. Everything's phenomenal about how this board looks on this game looks on the table. And you mentioned how the card play works here. There are great combos to be made in this game. And it's an engine building game of sorts that you can build fantastic engines and never get tired of it. Each game is going to be different from the different in-game bonuses, the special bonuses that you're trying to go for, and the cards that come out. And if you get the expansions, the additional cards that you can get with that, top notch here as far as that goes.
We played 2 games and both games were completely different. The first game I had much better cards. The second game, I don't think Lance will ever get as good of cards as he got that time. I mean, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
But it just completely changed the whole game.
Now, on that note, because Sam, you bring up a good point, and if I had any knocks against this game, you mentioned the quality of cards. There is some luck in the cards that come up, and not only the cards that are in the community, the meadow, or the cards that you're dealt at the beginning, but also those special bonus in-game bonuses that are different each time you play, and the cards that are required to fulfill those. You know, there is a little bit of luck involved when it comes to that. But I will also tell you guys this: if you've never played this game, you do need to know that the card play here is not wins or loses you this game. It is your ability to kind of read what's on the table and find ways to use it to the strategy that you're playing with. And so you're never completely out of this game. You know, the card draw is a thing, but it's not a make or break thing.
And typically that type of game wouldn't be something that I would enjoy, but I just liked the theme of it, and just the mechanics and everything just draws you in, and it makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Some other things that I really enjoy about this game: there is so much competition in this game, from trying to get the different cards in the meadow that you want, to getting the worker placement spots to get your resources to play those cards, to getting the bonuses for having played the specific number of colors of cards or the specific types of cards to get those special in-game bonuses. I mean, there's so much competition. It is, every single move is super important in this game.
What that also brings me to my knock against it. And I wouldn't even call it a knock. It's more of, from a non-gamer's perspective, there's a lot going on in the game, and you can be tempted to either focus on one aspect, like just the cards, or focusing on everything and not being able to do your best because you're so focused on everything.
Yeah, because you didn't commit to something.
Yes, yeah, but it's a fine line and you have to find a balance.
Right. And so with that being said, what we do recommend for you gamers out there that are playing this game with non-gamers, it is one that you probably want to hold the non-gamer's hand through the first time you play it. Really kind of guide them and walk them through it. Let it not be a very competitive moment, experience. And then after you get through that first game, take the training wheels off and let them kind of go at it and see how well they're able to compete against you. Because if you're more skilled, you'll be able to see those opportunities to build engines better than your non-gamer friends out there. Unless they're just completely brilliant and then they smoke you and then you look like a fool, which can happen.
Yeah.
So let's get to our rankings on this game. Sam, why don't you go first this time? What rating do you give this game?
I'd give it an 8.5. That may go up if I played it again. I've only played it twice. I did enjoy it, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. I'd give it an 8.5. It is a longer game too.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a longer game. And there is a learning curve to it. But guys, I'm going to tell you, this game is darn near perfect for me. So much so that I'm going to give it a 10. It is closer to a 10 than it is a 9 for me, so I have to just go ahead and give it a 10. I love this game. Instantly in my top 3 of all time. Like I mentioned before, the knocks against this game are very nitpicky. Just a fantastic game. Fantastic. All right, so let's just get to the question here. Sam, is this a game that you would recommend playing with non-gamers?
I definitely wouldn't start with it. If you do play it with a non-gamer, it can't be one of those where you're bringing it to the table, you know, ready to cut throat and win. You need to take it easy, but hopefully something you can get to eventually.
There you go, guys. All right, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. This has been Love to Hate.